end of the night, it is her I'll be holding. I love you so, hey, that's what you'll say. You'll tell me, baby, baby, please don't go away. But when I play, I never stay. So every girl that I meet, yeah, this is what I say. Run, run away, baby, before I put my spell on you. You better get away, darling, 'cause everything you heard is true. Your poor little heart will end up alone, 'cause Lord knows I'm a rolling stone. So you better run away, baby. Yeah. Well, let me think, what should I do? So many eager young bunnies that I'd like to pursue. Now even though they're eating out the palm of my hand, there's only one carrot and they all gotta share it. I love you so, hey, that's what you'll say. You'll tell me, baby, baby, please don't go away. But when I play, I never stay. So every girl that I meet, yeah, this is what I say. Run away, baby, before I put my spell on you. You better get away, darling, 'cause everything you heard is true. Your poor little heart will end up alone, 'cause Lord knows I'm a rolling stone. So you better run.
Fimbria, small finger-like projections at the end of the fallopian tubes. They are connected to the ovary. Ovaries, oval-shaped glands that are located on either side of the uterus. The ovaries produce eggs and hormones. Fallopian tubes, narrow tubes that are attached to the upper part of the uterus and serve as tunnels for the egg cells to travel from the ovaries to the uterus. Conception normally occurs here.
Uterus, home to a developing fetus. Cervix, ring of muscle located at the lower third portion of the uterus. It forms a barrier between the uterus and the vagina. Until birth, the baby is held in place by the cervix. During birth, the cervix expands and the baby passes through it. Vagina, canal that joins the cervix to the outside of the body.
We're going to talk about the female reproductive system. The processes presented are the ovarian cycle and the uterine cycle.
All ends with beginnings. What keeps the planet spinning? The force from the beginning.
The ovarian cycle. An ovary is made up of an outer cortex and an inner medulla. In the cortex, there are many follicles, each one containing an immature oocyte. A female usually produces only one oocyte per month during her reproductive years. The ovarian cycle occurs as a follicle changes from a primary to a secondary to a vesicular follicle. Epithelial cells of a primary follicle surround the primary oocyte. Follicular fluid surrounds the oocyte in a secondary follicle. In a vesicular follicle, a fluid-filled cavity increases to the point that the follicle wall balloons out on the surface of the ovary. As a follicle matures, oogenesis is initiated and continues. The primary oocyte divides, producing two haploid cells. One cell is a secondary oocyte and the other is a polar body. The vesicular follicle bursts, releasing the secondary oocyte. This process is referred to as ovulation. The secondary oocyte enters a uterine tube. If a sperm enters the secondary oocyte, fertilization occurs, and the secondary oocyte completes meiosis. An egg with 23 chromosomes and a secondary polar body results. When the sperm nucleus unites with the egg nucleus, a zygote with 46 chromosomes is produced. If zygote formation and pregnancy do not occur, the corpus luteum begins to degenerate after 10 days. The uterine cycle. Blood vessels rupture. On day 1 of the cycle, a flow of blood and tissues passes out of the vagina during menstruation. During days 6 to 13, increased production of estrogen by a new ovarian follicle in the ovary causes the endothelium to thicken and become avascular and glandular.
This is called the proliferative phase of the uterine cycle. On day 14 of a 28-day cycle, ovulation usually occurs. During days 15 to 28, increased production of progesterone and corpus luteum of the ovary causes the endometrium of the uterus to double and triple the thickness of the uterine glands to mature, producing a thick mucus secretion. This is called the secretory phase of the uterine cycle. The endometrium is now prepared to receive the developing embryo. If this does not occur, the corpus luteum of the ovary degenerates, and the sex hormones of the female body results in the endometrium breaking down during menstruation.
The information was taken from Life Science and Health Science, McGraw-Hill, Create, pages 375 and 376.
Just one night, all we got. 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 I ain't got time for you, baby.
This is our third partial project of science, and we're going to talk about the human papillomavirus.
Why is HPV important? There are many reasons why is it important. Some of them are because 20 million Americans are currently infected with HPV. It is the most common sexually transmitted disease in the USA, and most people who have it don't even know they are infected. HPV's history. It was first discovered during the 1950s. A group of international scientists contributed to the identification of this virus. This died in 1976. The German scientist Gerald Surhausen stated a hypothesis that the HPV was associated with cervical cancer. He proved it in 1984 and discovered the types of HPV.
The human papillomavirus affects the female reproductive system. There are 100 types of HPV. About 30 types of HPV cause genital warts. They can appear in the vulva, vagina, or cervix. The babies can also be infected through the birth canal.
HPV can cause cervical cancer. Cervical cancer is the second leading cause of death in women in the United States. This HPV type produces a new protein that inactivates the host protein p53. This protein works as a break on cell division of the p53 protein. When p53 has been inactivated in a particular cell, the cell is more prone to uncontrollable cell division, which is a characteristic of cancer.
Which are the treatments for HPV? There is no cure for HPV, but the warts can be treated with surgery, bleeding, application of antibiotics, and a therapy. But however, even after treatment, there is no cure for this virus. The ways of prevention are abstinence, getting the vaccine, know your partner, limit your partner, use female or male condoms, visit the doctor, always look and visit. Gardasil. Gardasil is the vaccine that prevents for certain strains of HPV. It is effective against 4 of the most common HPVs, including the 2 types that cause 70% of daily cervical cancer. Legally, children should be vaccinated before they are sexually active. The references for the information were the Life Science and Health Science book and the Gardasil page. Thank you for listening.
Just one night, all we got. What do you think, Goon Rock? Are you ready? A little